Before we get started, I want to tell you about a Day Refrigeration. Ready to revolutionize your convenience store kitchen? Look no further than a Day Refrigeration. With a Day's innovative patented technology, you'll enjoy a dramatic reduction in energy consumption compared to traditional refrigeration units. A Day drawers offer large capacity and stackability, allowing you to optimize every inch of your storage area and maintain consistent, precise temperatures. Choose a Day refrigeration for unmatched efficiency and performance made for your convenience. Visit adanday.com to learn more.
Our responsibility as a management team is empowering people to get the best out of themselves. And I think that's probably the most rewarding part of the overall job. And we're all different, and so important to lean into that diversity and embrace all the different perspectives and foster that culture where it's open sharing, open collaboration. And we seem to just get the best out of our teams by doing that.
You're listening to the Future of Convenience podcast, brought to you by Global Convenience Store Focus, featuring senior retail executives and experts in the global convenience, fuels, and mobility retail industry. Hosted by Dan Munford, Nick Scherzer, and Carolyn Schnare. Welcome to the Future of Convenience podcast. I'm Carolyn Schnare, and I'm joined by my co-host, Dan Munford. Hey, Dan.
Hi, Carolyn. How are you doing?
I am doing great. It's great to see you again. And today we're talking with Fiona Matthews, who is the Managing Director of ROI for Applegreen in Ireland. And we're going to talk about their spectacular food service and new coffee concept. I had the pleasure of meeting with Fiona and her team in Dublin this spring to sample the food, see some Applegreen stores, drink plenty of delicious coffee. And so thank you for joining us today. Hey, Fiona, how are you?
Hi, Carolyn. Hi, Dan. Great to be speaking with you today. Delighted to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Our pleasure, Fiona. And it was only a few weeks and we were together in Dublin looking at some really exciting Applegreen stores. They're always exciting, aren't they? But there was a lot of new stuff on the last visit. And of course, it was great to be together with Carolyn as well as yourself and your team. You know, I've followed Applegreen for a long time. And obviously, there's always a lot going on in Ireland in the Applegreen business. There's a lot going on in the UK now. And there's even more, perhaps, going on in the US market. It's very global business these days. But what Carolyn and I wanted to do today was, really focus in on the Irish market, its operations, and food service in particular, because we think it's very notable some of the developments that are happening in the market, which you've driven, very successfully. So we wanted to kick it off with coffee. It's always a good place to start, and it's now the Braeburn coffee brand. So we wanted maybe to ask the question: can you perhaps tell the story of coffee at Applegreen, how it's developed, and where it's going?
Super. Great place to start, Dan. And I have to confess, I didn't drink nearly as much coffee before I joined Applegreen 4.5 years ago as I do now. I love it. So coffee, why coffee? It's such a core part of Applegreen's offering and has been for quite a long time, as you'll know. We developed the new Braeburn coffee concept about 3 years ago now, and it was in order to renew our commitment to delivering on our tagline, which is best coffee on the road. And we were keen to really live up and exceed our customers' expectations on that. So where it began was working on the branding. So we developed a new name and a brand platform for our coffee, really honing in on the key customer audiences that we were focused on, that we wanted to create this brand for. And we, in tandem, invested in a really strong coffee team to support that and really evolve the expertise around the product. And look, the big priority was very much from the outset on delivering fantastic tasting coffee, great quality coffee, and build from there. So, to start out, we launched the first part of the concept for Braeburn Coffee was our self-serve concept, which the first innovation was to develop this new look and feel of a self-service cart. The big differentiator for us in the market was we offered such an amount of choice. So we were offering customers dairy, non-dairy, iced coffees at the touch of a button, which was first in our market, certainly here. And that was really successful. So we started out with anticipated a slower launch and rollout, but due to the appetite for the brand and the success of the initial rollout, we quickly moved to roll out to over 100 locations over the last couple of years. So that's been great. And the next iteration of the Braeburn coffee concept we took on last year, which was the introduction of our new drive-through, which we had the pleasure of hosting you at in Ashburn recently. And that's been great. We took a bit of a leap in doing so, but again, it was a great trial. It's worked really well. The customers have really enjoyed the experience in the cafe. It gave us a slightly different opportunity to what we could offer within the self-service cart. And I'm delighted to say we'll be opening our second drive-through in the coming weeks in Rathcoole. So
really interesting. I mean, I guess, Applegreen has always had its own coffee, hasn't it? But this is a brand, isn't it? This has brand. It seems to me this has real brand power. This Braeburn coffee concept, and that's not easy to have achieved. That is it? I don't think.
Well, it really comes back to the quality of the product and the quality of the coffee. And I think it was exceeding customers' expectations when they came in and realized they could get an iced oat cappuccino at the touch of a button that tasted really good. So we actually kind of saw a new audience, a new customer coming to us on the back of offering such choice in the range. And interestingly enough, we got some user generated content early on from a branding perspective. So some of our customers liked it so much that they were taking videos of their new iced coffee and putting it up on social. So it kind of developed of its own accord on the back of that. And we've gone with it.
So one of the things when we were in Ireland, one of the things that I thought was really cool, if you could explain why the name Braeburn.
It wasn't easily arrived at. Let me just start by saying that. Braeburn, for most people, will know Braeburn as a type of apple. And we felt that there was a nice link to, obviously, apple within Applegreen, and that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So that it had a nice ring to it. It also had that kind of hidden meaning behind it that linked it nicely back to Applegreen.
That was so cool because I didn't make that connection until you explained it. And I'm like, that's brilliant. And when I came over, I mean, much like Ted Lasso, the famous Ted Lasso, I do not like tea. So I was petrified that I'd have to sit there and drink tea and give up my coffee once I came over. But I was very pleased and I did not have a drop of tea. So I was in good shape too and very well caffeinated. That's for sure. But one of the things I also wanted to ask you about in addition to this is food service. So Ireland is world renowned for its food service, especially here in the US. We look to Ireland. That's how I think a lot of this stuff got started. We've talked about it on this show before with Dan, that a lot of the Americans that started the food service revolution here in the US in convenience stores learned about it while visiting Ireland on some of our other tours. So I expected great things when I came over there. You guys met and exceeded all my expectations with the food. I remember Dan and I were even sampling some salads and whatnot, and they were just fantastic. So can you tell us a bit more about your food service strategy and some of the famous food brands you work with maybe, or ones you've developed yourself that you'd like to share?
Sure. Thanks, Carolyn. Yeah, and I think you referenced Ireland as such a strong ecosystem for food service. Like, we're in very good company. We've some fantastic operators of food service in Ireland, which is fantastic. For us, we see Applegreen as a food and coffee destination primarily. So we put a huge amount of effort and investment and focus on our food business. We operate actually across the three markets over 700 food and coffee brand outlets across the 600 sites. So we work with market leading brands in each of the markets and pride ourselves in being a really strong operator and an operator of choice for these brands. So, we've given the breadth of experience across the business. We know how to run these brands. We know how to protect their IP and work with them and get the best out of them and maintain the highest quality standards. So it's really important to us to continue to do that and continue to push the boat out in terms of operational excellence. But I think it's really about bringing to our customers what they want in terms of the latest brands and really finding the brands that our customers love. And we're always open to kind of new innovations to that space. So specifically here in Ireland, we work with Burger King and we've evolved the Burger King opportunity through our drive-through expansion. We work with Chopsticks and Subway. And most recently, we've worked with M&S Food, which is a slightly different food service offering, but fantastic partners. So it's really about just continuing to deliver that for the customer and look to what are the trends and what is our customer looking for and leaning into that. You referenced as well, and you had the pleasure of tasting our own brand food concept. So we have a mix of own brand and branded offerings. The own brand we created in Ireland, our Bakewell, it's a typical Irish deli, and we created that due to the customer demand. So in Ireland, the Irish love a breakfast roll or a chicken fillet roll, and it's quite a unique concept to be able to offer really high quality food on the move through that. So it also gives us an opportunity to really support local suppliers and enhance the provenance offering, which is something that our customers are looking for as well.
No, it's very interesting, Fiona. I mean, of course, the salad that Carolyn was referencing was an M&S salad that we both enjoyed in your Mount Gorey store.
Of course.
Shout out to that store. It was terrifically hosted by the team. But yeah, I mean, we liked having being able to access that brand, just as you put it. You know, you're giving your consumers, your customers, the brands that they want to access, and I think that's a great way of describing it, actually. I mean, I suppose it does give you a lot of strength, doesn't it, in that you've got this mix of your own brands. And I guess Braeburn's one of those as well, we're just talking about. But also you can bring in excitement, can't you, with new brands that you can mix with an own brand. So I just think it's it's a kind of for retailers from around the world visiting, they love the way that you have a mix of brands, and it makes for a very powerful proposition, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, thanks, Dan. And I think yes, it does. But why do we do that? It's to offer a choice ultimately to the customer. So there will be a customer or a cohort that come in looking for a QSR offering or a Burger King with a family, but there's also going to be somebody coming in looking for a really nice salad on the move. So it's trying to make sure that we have sufficient diversity in our offering to tailor to all of the customer needs.
Yeah, and I noticed too, the same store Dan you were referencing had both like meals ready to take home and heat up and everything as well, whether it's for one or for multiple family members. But on the same side, like you were looking at the store where they had you had the cold case with all the delicious, single serve everything from like a small side salad to full meat that you could just take home and cook yourself. And then on the other side of the store were this whole deli where you were making food fresh for people with all the time. And it was bustling. I think we were there in like the middle of the late morning and it was just packed with people coming in and out, whether it was breakfast, lunch, I don't know, but it was just fantastic to see such a robust offer too.
If I can just come in on the Marks and Spencer's point, I mean, that's quite a big development. Obviously that got a lot of attention, didn't it? And it looks like it's going pretty well for you guys.
Absolutely, Dan. Yeah, we have recently signed a 10-year agreement, exclusive agreement with M&S Food for Ireland, which is fantastic. We've been working with them now for about 2 years. And we came together initially when we recognised an opportunity for Food for Now and Food for Later in particular within our store offering. And Marks and Spencer's have about 16 main chain stores in Ireland. So it's limited in terms of their reach. So they felt there was a big opportunity to work with us, and we felt there was a big opportunity to expand our offering. So it was a really good strategic fit, I would say, from the outset. And the reaction from customers has been really positive. So it's we're now seeing people basket shop probably for the first time in Applegreen on the back of the extended range. So far so good. And we'll have 20 of those concepts open by the end of this year.
Yeah, well, that sounds very good. That's interesting about the basket, the basket shopping. Obviously, you'd love to see that, I'm sure. What about the sort of the mix between male and female customers? I wonder if that's changing too with the M&S offer there. Just interesting to see, remembering what happened with BP sites, when they first introduced the BP Marks and Spencer's partnership in the UK. That was one of their conclusions then.
Yes, we've seen something similar for sure, Dan, and we've seen a whole new audience. So from speaking with our site managers in the aftermath of kind of an initial rollout, the feedback that they're seeing new customers for the first time is a commonplace. We have a new audience that we're now tailoring the offering to. So it's great. We had anticipated that there'd be an incremental lift over and above what the customer base was prior to the launch, and thankfully that's delivered for us.
Oh, very, very good. Maybe Carolyn, we should just look broadly at design, because I think we love we were talking about this in Dublin. We love the sort of the design, the store environment that Applegreen put a lot of time and thought into creating, don't we? So maybe Fiona, we could ask you a little bit about that. Um, you think hard about this, don't you? Everything from the seating area, to the restrooms. That's an important consideration for Applegreen, isn't it?
It certainly is, Dan, yes. And I have to open with the fact that we're very lucky to work with a hugely experienced and strong in-house design and developments team who do a fantastic job in bringing our concepts to life for us. And I think, look, facilities and amenities are so important to our customers, in particular those using our motorway service areas. And a lot of thought has gone into the customer journey and simplifying it and making it easier and more comfortable. And generally, what you'll find in an Applegreen is a warm environment, a welcoming environment, and the design supports that.
Fiona, so one of the points too to that, as well as the design, is how complementary you are of each of the teams that put everything together and the people that you work with. And I know it's extremely important to you that you have a strong team, a strong leadership team, strong in all the different departments. So can you tell us a little bit about that in terms of like the challenges? I know the labor market's probably just as challenging over there as it is here. But what are some opportunities you've learned along the way about the people of Applegreen?
Super, Carolyn. Yeah, people, my favorite topic of conversation by a distant mile. So, look, it's all about the people and it's all about the teams, and none of this happens without incredibly talented people who are brilliant at what they do. So, for me at Applegreen, it's really important that we build the environment that values and develops people. We really encourage sharing and collaboration. We're very lucky to work very closely with the founders of Applegreen, Joe and Bob, who instill a fantastic entrepreneurial culture across the business, which encourages teams across the board to try new things and fail fast. So I think it's really about empowering. Our responsibility as a management team is empowering people to get the best out of themselves. And I think that's probably the most rewarding part of the overall job, in my mind. And we're all different, and so important to lean into that diversity and embrace all the different perspectives, and again, just create that foster that culture where it's open sharing, open collaboration, and we seem to just get the best out of our teams by doing that. So look, it's sometimes cliched, but it's so important and it's so fundamental to everything that we're doing. Yes, we've been through a difficult labor market, but I think hopefully we're coming out the other side of that, from what we're seeing at the moment. And it's just about continuously investing in people. Like, there's no point investing in a fabulous new site if we're not prepared to invest in the team and developing the team that are going to run that site for us. So I think the two go hand in hand.
Well, Fiona, it definitely comes across, from our meetings that we've had and discussions that, you're very focused on people. And I guess that's pretty good, isn't it? That makes sense from an Applegreen perspective, because, just thinking about the development of the business, if you turn the clock back and look at the business you were, and now you suddenly jump to today and looked at the business you are today, the people factor, it's always, of course, it's important in every business. However, you're a very different business now, aren't you, to the one you were? You've got these huge motorway sites, obviously, in Ireland, but also in UK and US as well. And, you're striving for perfection, aren't you, in some of your formats around coffee and food and so on. I think coming back to Braeburn Coffee Drive-Through, probably one of my favorite formats that I've seen for a few years, to be honest. I get very positive about it, but the people side of that type of format is a whole different thing, isn't it? To a very basic small petrol station. It's very different.
It certainly is, Dan, and thank you for the feedback on our Braeburn drive-through. Look, it's so important to bring in the right level of expertise in different areas as we grow. And I think the business has done is really hone in on the key values that knit the business together, and we've managed to protect them as we've grown, and they're still effectively the same today as they were from the outset, because we've such strong kind of leaders in Joe and Bob. But the openness to bring in people to try new things and to bring in different levels of expertise on kind of key core categories for us has been a big unlocker of the success, I would suggest. Yeah.
No, it's obviously clear. Do you think that looking at the future? Obviously, we spend a lot of time looking at the energy transition and EV and so on. Do you think this sort of focus on food is a pretty good future proofing for the business. Looking at liquid fuels becoming less important long term. We know it's going to take some time, but long term, it's going to take some time. So, do you feel quite future proofed, if that's a question?
Well, I hope so. But yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to be looking to the future. We do see ourselves as more of a hospitality brand today, rather than what would have traditionally been seen as a forecourt. So I think we're moving in the right direction in terms of future proofing. And again, it's just really honing in on what does the customer on the road want, and what can we do to make their lives easier and help them enjoy their journey. So I think there's lots more to do. There's lots more exciting initiatives and evolutions, which I think makes the industry that we're in such an exciting and dynamic place to be.
So optimistic for the future?
Absolutely.
Well, that's been wonderful to not only, like I said, I've experienced your stores now most recently, which was an absolute pleasure, but then to hear so much about it and hear your optimism, but also just all the thoughtfulness that goes into not only starting some of these brands like Braeburn, but just growing and growing and growing. And I look forward to coming back, hopefully not another 15 years, which it took me from the first time I was there to now. So maybe in a few more years coming. So Fiona, thank you so much for your time today and your hospitality, both when we visited as well as teaching all of our listeners about your stores. Thank you so much.
Thank you both so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
And thank you for listening to The Future of Convenience. You've been listening to the Future of Convenience podcast, produced by Dan Munford, Nick Scherzer, Jenna Ferguson, and Lorraine Evans. It is produced, edited, and mixed by Carolyn Schnare, and music is provided by Jukebox Music. Tune in every other Friday for new episodes, and please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Learn more at globalconveniencestorefocus.co.uk.